These are the 5 insanely effective workflow strategies for independent musicians, artists, producers, everyone in the music business. Okay, so number one, we're going to create a feedback loop. If you create a feedback loop of trusted listeners, this is going to be your sounding board. All right, so you do this by developing a network of people whose opinions actually matter. The people's opinions who actually matter are going to be people who have some kind of relevant background. Okay, so if it's about music, they should have a musical background and they should have some kind of taste or ear for the type of genre you're doing. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. And it's so critical whose opinions that you put your stock into, especially as you're trying to develop a sound. Um, it's so they don't necessarily have to be like, producers themselves or understand the ins and outs. But if you're asking somebody's opinion on, say, something like, the style, like, do you like my song? If you're just saying, do you like my song? You should ask somebody that appreciates the genre that you're trying to do it. Otherwise, you're kind of wasting your time. And if you're looking for things like mix notes, if you're trying to be a mixer, then I would say that you talk to somebody that kind of does these kind of things, and it might even be worth your while. We always tell you to try to, as you're building your team, find a mixer that you work with more regularly and share your mixes with them to get feedback from them. You already have a relationship with them. You know they're professional, working on your demos to get feedback on that. But yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
So this feedback loop is going to help you to gain valuable insights. It's going to help you identify missing, things, blind spots, and it's going to really just elevate what you're doing. So then the
Absolutely.
second insanely effective workflow hack that I have for you is create a release strategy roadmap. Okay, so just meaning like your glorified to-do list of when you have a release, music or otherwise, what are the goals? Who's the target audience? What are your promotional activities? And what's the timeline? All right, so if you don't have any of the stuff and then you're like, hey, I'm going to release a song, guess how well that song's going to do, right? Probably not that well. So, for example, when we're talking about promotional strategies, well, what about pre release promotion? What are you doing to promote before it comes out? All right, once it is released, what are you doing to actually engage people to get them to, they listen to your song on Instagram? They liked your song on Instagram. What are you going to do to get them to actually get off Instagram and go to Spotify? That's actually more difficult than you would think. The whole link in bio thing doesn't quite do it all the time.
That's the trick, right? That's the magic trick. You got to get them off of one platform and go somewhere else, and spread it around and be so invested to that. So now they're going to your YouTube page after their Spotify because they love the song, and now they're looking for a live performance from you. They're looking for a music video of it or a lyric video that they can sing along to. Another tip when you're releasing music on Spotify, go through the trouble of adding your lyrics so people can sing along. Like, don't miss that step.
That's
Um,
right. That's right. So once you kind of have your release strategy now in your workflow, the third incredibly effective way to increase your general workflow is to have your templates. Okay, so this even kind of goes to the
yes,
whole
yes,
release
yes, yes.
strategy, to-do item or list that you have. Okay, so this can be on the production side that ORKO can
Yes.
speak to this, but if you have templates of when you are just starting new songs, right? If you have a general like chord structure that you like to start with, but then on the more business side, well, if you have contract templates that you use, it's going to make you more efficient because there are things that you just do over and over and over.
Absolutely. So, like, as a producer, I have all kinds of different templates for, if I'm doing recording vocals for the day, if I'm, kind of song starting, I have, my effects and my mastering things and all the things I want already in the project that I frequently use, or the reverb types that I use. I record, Miss Krystle all the time. So she has her own vocal kind of templates and stuff that I use when I'm tracking her. So everything kind of sounds consistent on the demos.
Yeah.
And then then I make adjustments. But yeah, I can't even stress enough, even just having your templates for things like you said, for your for your release strategies, for your legal documents, for your press releases that you write. You just kind of have things that you plug and play, like your Photoshop. If you're when you're making thumbnails, you have your Photoshop templates that already have everything in it. Your Premiere project templates, have your stuff all ready to go. So just you're not just dragging stuff in or starting from scratch each time. I can't even tell you.
That's right. So then number 4 on my insanely effective workflow hacks for you. Create a music inspiration notebook. Okay, it can be whatever you want to call it, a diary, whatever. Digital, physical, I don't care what you're using. You need to have something that you just use to kind of jumpstart your inspiration. That can look at like different things. So, for example, on my phone, which is in front of me running Instagram right now, but on my phone, I have the notes. So in my notes, I have all my little ideas that I get from song titles to things that I see, and I'll save a link to the clip so I can go back to it. So mine is digital and it's on my phone, but I also have an actual physical planner.
Mm.
Okay. So this, even though I have digital calendars, I use my physical planner as a thing to make notes of shit that's going well. And I use it to just reinforce positivity and inspiration. So that's what I do, right? But just let's just call it a music inspiration notebook of some kind.
Yeah, and I mean, it could be even just the way that you organize stuff on your computer. So, like you have lyric ideas. If you hear, it could be your Spotify playlist that you make of songs that are inspiring you of a direction to go back and listen to. Like maybe you're looking for, a vibes or something. So you're collecting vibes. Maybe you're writing down lyrics and putting them in there. Maybe you're taking, you know, uh, pictures that you find on Pinterest that are just the artwork is inspiring to you, and you put it into the same folder.
Even on that note, he made such a good point. You go to Pinterest, I've seen pictures and I'll save them. This literally happened yesterday for a music video that I'm working on. I go back through, I send one of them to my team, and I'm like, hey, this is a thing that we're working on. This is an idea that I had. And so it's just something that I had saved that otherwise now I can actually use. So moving on, number 5, when it comes to the 5 most insanely effective workflow hacks, establish a centralized digital file management system. So we talked about you're going to have all your great templates ready to go. You need to go and find those. So you need to have a system of how you're like naming and saving your files, because if you're like me or anybody else, save something and then you'll forget where you save it. So you end up using just the general search function. And so you need to have good naming conventions.
I'm so bad at that. Like I'll be working on beats sometimes, and I'll literally just go like this on the keyboard. I'll go, and just wherever the keys land, like that's the name of it. And it's so bad because it isn't until I have like a real vocal idea that I think of calling something. Like all my titles end up sounding the same. But if you can do that, it saves so much time. And even now I'm really trying to force myself in my productions, just to name everything and put the BPM on them as well so I can organize them. But yeah, you got to have like, and then backing everything up on in your Dropbox, your Google Drive, on multiple drives. You never know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, so Ashley has a question, any advice on organizing all of this, right? So
Just
we're
got to do it.
saying you got to do it. Well, there you go. Yeah, you got to do it, but having trying to communicate with your future self is how I would say it. Okay? So I know how I would probably search something. I'm like, this doesn't really make sense, but I know this is how I would search for it. It's kind of how I save
Right.
things. But also, obviously try to get a file that's like contract templates. Try to get a file that's like piano, template for writing
Right.
songs. Be intuitive about it. And then with your just kind of, management of these digital files, back everything up.
Yeah.
Okay. Use Dropbox, use Google Drive. Don't just have it on your computer. So when your computer crashes or your hard drive crashes and just decides to delete everything, you gotta have at least one backup. And my preference, if you are a super duper superstar, have it in 3 places.
Yeah.
Always save what's important in 3 places.
It's so important. And my little final just tip to you, it's gonna be difficult for a lot of us out there because we get impatient. At least I know I do. You gotta slow down when you're naming stuff. You have to spell it correctly if you're going to try to find it. So like if you see something is misspelled and then you hit enter and it does it, go back and respell it right because you're
That's
gonna have a
right.
hard time trying to find it. It's annoying because I am terrible with this and I get so frustrated when I have to type a lot of stuff. But yeah, like you gotta just put all the info, make it easier for yourself. Yeah, BPM too. Like I'm telling you, like I put the BPM in the beat stuff just so I can reference it. I'll even sometimes put just the genre of the vibe or something that it's in, because I'll look at these titles that say Candy Apple and I'll have no idea what that is. But if I go Candy Apple 124, R&B, like I know kind of. So just make it easier for yourself so you're not just opening up projects to see what stuff is all the time. It's a pain though, I get it, but you got to.
All right, and those are your 5 insanely effective ways of improving your general workflow. Make sure you subscribe on Top Music Attorney YouTube for more tips to help you with your music career.